Love often hides in silence. There are men who never say the words "I love you," yet everything about the way they move, pause, or act seems to confess it louder than speech ever could. They are not liars, nor always even aware of the depth of what they feel. Instead, they are men shaped by invisible forces, the upbringing that told them to be strong, the fear of being vulnerable, the pride of appearing in control. Their emotions, however, are not erased by denial. They surface in subtle gestures, contradictions, sudden bursts of care, and restless behaviors that defy logic. To understand why this happens, we must move past the surface of ordinary explanations and into the territory Carl Jung explored: the unconscious mind. Jung believed that most of our emotional decisions do not spring from rational thought, but from the unconscious, the deep reservoir of memory, fear, desire, and archetypal patterns that live beneath awareness. A man may believe he is guided by reason, yet, in truth, his hidden self directs much of his life. When he begins to fall in love, he does not always recognize it immediately, especially if he's been trained to repress tenderness, to avoid vulnerability, or to equate strength with silence. Love emerges not through declarations but through contradictions. His unconscious, more honest than his conscious mind, moves first. Within Jung's framework lies the anima, the feminine principle within the male psyche, representing intuition, empathy, and emotional depth. When a man connects emotionally to a woman, it is often his anima that awakens, even if his rational ego resists. This inner figure creates a bridge between his soul and hers. The result is not always harmony. In fact, it often produces confusion. He is pulled toward her by feelings he does not fully understand, yet he pushes away to preserve his sense of control. This conflict gives rise to one of the most common signs of hidden love: the push and pull, the leaving and returning. At times, he withdraws, claiming space or independence. He insists he is not ready, that he needs distance, but the withdrawal rarely lasts. His unconscious tugs him back, drawing him into her orbit despite himself. He texts after silence, appears again after absence, breaks his own rules of detachment. This is not always manipulation. Often it is the visible struggle between unconscious desire and conscious resistance. He is at once frightened of losing himself and incapable of letting her go. Jung once wrote, "What is not made conscious will manifest in your life as fate in love." This means that unacknowledged desire does not disappear. It leaks into behavior, into jealous glances, protective gestures, nervous laughter, and remembered details. A man may deny to himself that he is in love, but his body, his memory, and his actions testify otherwise. One of the purest ways hidden love reveals itself is through protection. He might offer his jacket without being asked, insist on accompanying her somewhere he dislikes, or send a message to ensure she is safe. These are not grand heroic acts, but small, instinctive ones. They stem from the archetype Jung described as the guardian, the instinct to shield what one values. True protection, however, is not control. It does not cage or limit, but creates a sense of safety. When he looks out for her without condition, his unconscious has already chosen her, even if his words have not. Another sign emerges through memory. A man who remembers trivial details, the exact way she takes her coffee, the story she once shared about her grandmother. The offhand remark about a book reveals something deeper than attentiveness. He reveals that she's become emotionally engraved within him. Jung emphasized that the unconscious preserves what touches us most. What moves the soul is not easily forgotten. Thus, his memory does not reflect unusual discipline, but emotional connection, even when he seems distant. The truth is that her presence has already settled into his inner world. Body language also becomes the great betrayer of hidden feelings. Around her, his behavior shifts. He may grow nervous, fidget, touch his face, laugh too loudly, or retreat into silence. His gaze lingers too long or avoids hers altogether. These reactions are not strategies, but involuntary expressions of inner conflict. His unconscious has already accepted the bond, while his ego wrestles with vulnerability. Jung taught that repressed psychic energy manifests through the body. Love, denied in words, will still pulse through heartbeat, gesture, and tone. And then there is jealousy, the unspoken flame that flickers when another man enters the frame. He may dismiss it with a joke, change the subject, or suddenly withdraw. Yet the shift in his demeanor exposes more than he admits. True love desires exclusivity, not in the sense of possession, but in the ache not to lose what matters. Even if he claims indifference, even if he insists she is just a friend, his unconscious protests, the mask of the ego cracks, and beneath it, his soul has already declared what his lips will not. All of these signs, contradiction, protection, memory, nervousness, jealousy, belong to the language of the unconscious. They remind us that love is rarely born in perfect clarity. It often begins in shadows, half seen, half felt, resisted even as it insists on being lived. Many men struggle because they never learned that it is possible to love deeply without losing themselves. That vulnerability is not weakness, but depth. Their silence is not always emptiness, but often the loudest confession of all. For those who witness this kind of hidden love, the task is not to force confessions, but to listen beyond words, to see what gestures reveal, to hear what silence contains, to recognize the truth that the soul often speaks first. The unconscious does not lie. It moves with a power that no rational denial can fully contain. In those restless glances, protective instincts, and remembered details, love has already been spoken, even if it has not yet been heard. When a man unknowingly falls in love, the experience often unsettles him rather than comforts him. Love, when recognized, can be grounding. But love denied or hidden can create chaos inside. He may not understand why he feels so restless, why he alternates between closeness and distance, or why her presence disarms him more than anyone else's ever has. This inner turbulence is not the mark of indifference. It is the evidence of depth. His unconscious has already surrendered, while his conscious mind struggles to maintain control. This tension reveals itself through the pattern so many find confusing. He pulls away, but he cannot let go. It is tempting to interpret this push and pull as manipulation, as if he is intentionally toying with her emotions. Sometimes that is true, but often the reality is more vulnerable than it appears. He is not strategizing, he is stumbling. His unconscious, tied to the anima, pulls him forward with longing. His ego, bound to fear and self-preservation, yanks him back. The result is a fractured rhythm of engagement and withdrawal. Yet, the most important observation is this: his return is inevitable. Distance soothes his rational mind for a moment, but soon the ache of connection pulls him back into orbit. The fear behind this behavior is profound. Many men are raised to believe that losing themselves in love is dangerous. They are taught to value autonomy, to guard against dependency, to see surrender as weakness, and so when real love rises, it shakes them. The unconscious does not respect these rules. It binds him to the person who awakens his emotional world. He tries to retreat, to reclaim his sense of self, but the bond will not dissolve. Jung explained that the psyche seeks wholeness, and love is one of the most powerful ways this quest appears. The man feels vulnerable, as though she holds a power over him he cannot explain, and so he builds defenses: distance, silence, rational excuses. But every wall he erects soon crumbles, pulled down by the very feelings he denies. What should one do in the face of this contradiction? The first truth is not to take it personally. His behavior is often less about rejection and more about his private war with himself. The second is not to force clarity through confrontation. If pressed, his rational mind will dig in, clinging to denial. Instead, watch the rhythm. Notice whether every withdrawal is followed by return, whether every silence gives way to a renewed reaching out. This pattern is not the hallmark of indifference, but of a soul that cannot disengage, no matter how hard the ego tries. From this tension emerges another instinct that reveals his hidden love, the impulse to protect. This protection rarely arrives in dramatic declarations. It appears in quiet moments. He checks if she got home safely. He lends his jacket without hesitation. He notices when she is uncomfortable in a room and shifts to shield her. He changes plans to accompany her, even when he says little about why. These gestures may seem trivial, but they carry weight. Jung described archetypes as universal patterns within the unconscious. Among them, the guardian is one of the oldest, the impulse to shield what one values most. When his anima awakens, so too does the guardian. It is crucial to distinguish genuine protection from control. True care does not suffocate. It does not arrive with conditions or restrictions. If his concern begins to manifest as jealousy disguised as authority, or as rules that limit her freedom, that is not love, but insecurity. Yet when protection flows naturally, without expectation, it is the unconscious speaking. He acts not because he must, but because he cannot bear the thought of her in danger, discomfort, or pain. In this way, love reveals itself not through words, but through small, consistent acts. The unconscious has chosen long before the conscious mind admits it. He may tell himself he is simply being polite or responsible, but in truth, his soul has already tethered itself to her well-being. And even when he denies his emotions, his actions tell another story: that her safety matters more to him than his own comfort, that her peace of mind takes precedence over his plans. The unconscious does not lie. It may be buried, resisted, or denied, but it finds a way to speak. And in love, its voice is clearest in protection: to care for another without being asked, to rearrange one's life without considering it a sacrifice. These are signs of a bond too deep to be casual. They are the language of a man whose heart is already awake, even if his mind has not yet caught up. There's another way the unconscious betrays hidden love memory. A man may forget many things in his daily life, yet when it comes to the woman who stirs his soul, details seem to cling to him effortlessly. He remembers the small things: how she takes her coffee, the song she mentioned in passing, the childhood story she thought was unremarkable, even the subtle change in tone when she is upset. She may have let these moments slip from her own mind, but he does not. And the reason is not that he has an extraordinary memory. It is that his unconscious has decided she matters. Jung taught that what touches us emotionally becomes etched in the unconscious far more deeply than ordinary thoughts. The psyche prioritizes not logic, but what resonates with the soul. When a man recalls details she herself has forgotten, it is because those details have anchored in him as emotional markers. They are woven into his inner world, even when he does not consciously acknowledge why. It is not effort that preserves these memories, it is feeling. This is one of the clearest signs of unconscious love. Even when he appears distracted, even when he insists she is only a friend, his actions tell a different story. He remembers her grandmother's name, her favorite drink, the day she confessed a fear. He notices shifts in her energy, recalls the exact phrasing of her words, holds onto fragments of her presence. These are not the habits of indifference. They are the signals of a soul that has already tethered itself to another. When asked how he remembers, he may not know. He might laugh it off. Say, "I just did." And in a way, that is the truth. His unconscious has already done the work, filing away the things that matter because she has already entered the part of him that chooses what is worth keeping. The rational mind may still fight, but the unconscious has no debate. It stores what the heart has already chosen. Alongside memory comes another giveaway: body language. The body is honest in ways the mind cannot be. Around her, he shifts. He becomes restless, nervous, animated, or unusually quiet. His gaze lingers, or it avoids. He touches his face, fidgets with his hands, crosses and uncrosses his arms, laughs too hard at jokes, or stumbles into awkward silences. None of this is calculated. It is the body's response to what the unconscious is already experiencing. Jung argued that psychic energy, when repressed, seeks expression through physical form. Feelings too overwhelming or unacknowledged spill into gesture, movement, tone. For the man who resists admitting his love, the body becomes the stage where truth plays out. He may not even understand why he feels tense around her, why his chest tightens, why his heart races when she enters the room. It is not fear of her, but fear of what she awakens. This nervousness is not a sign of weakness. It is evidence of depth. Love disarms, and if he has learned to protect himself from vulnerability, then being near her tears down his defenses. He may become more serious, more hyperactive, or more awkward, but each shift points back to the same reality: she has already become significant. His soul has moved toward her, even as his ego scrambles to keep balance. For the one observing, these signs may seem small, but together they reveal something unmistakable. The body is honest. The memory is faithful. The actions are louder than words. Love that is denied consciously still finds its way into every corner of expression, and though he may remain confused, his soul has already decided. Jealousy is perhaps the most revealing sign of all. When a man insists he feels nothing, yet reacts when another man enters the picture, the truth leaks through the cracks. He may not say anything directly, but his tone shifts, his expression hardens, or his energy changes in ways that are unmistakable. He might make sarcastic jokes, grow distant without explanation, or casually inquire about who the other person is. He may dismiss his reaction as nothing, but the air between them tells another story. This jealousy is not always toxic or possessive. At its core, it is the unconscious speaking a truth the conscious mind resists: to want exclusivity. To feel the sting of imagining her with someone else is to reveal that she already matters more than he admits. Jung explained that the ego builds masks, personas designed to maintain control and protect pride. But the unconscious has no mask. It reacts honestly, whether or not he wishes it to, and jealousy, even when brief or controlled, exposes desire, the fear of losing her before he has even claimed her. It is easy to misread this reaction. Some may see it as childish, others as manipulative. But often, it is simply an unrefined confession. His soul has already chosen, while his mind scrambles to catch up. He may insist she can do as she pleases, but if another man captures her attention, the facade crumbles. In those moments, the unconscious strips him bare. His denial collides with his truth, and the result is visible discomfort. The important distinction lies in how jealousy is expressed. True unconscious love does not seek to control. It does not demand ownership or suffocate freedom. Instead, it shows itself in fleeting expressions, in subtle shifts of energy, in awkward attempts to hide concern. When he interrupts a story about another man, when he grows unusually quiet after hearing her praise someone else, when he changes the subject or withdraws momentarily, these are his unconscious confessions. They are clumsy, but they are real. Together, all of these signs form a language. The withdrawal and return, the protective gestures, the remembered details, the nervous body language, the subtle jealousy, they are the ways a man says "I love you" without ever saying it aloud. They are the voice of the unconscious, more faithful than the words his ego resists. Jung believed that what begins in the unconscious eventually shapes our fate. In love, this means that the feelings denied in speech still shape connection, still direct choices, still carve out the path between two souls. For the one observing, the challenge is not to demand words, but to read the truth beneath them. It is to notice that protection is not obligation, but devotion. That memory is not accident, but attachment. That nervousness is not weakness, but depth. That jealousy is not always control, but the raw ache of not wanting to lose what already matters. Love often begins in silence, in shadows, in contradictions that seem confusing until they are understood as signs of a soul already moved. In the end, the lesson is clear: the unconscious does not lie. When a man's mind resists, but his body, memory, and actions reveal otherwise, love has already spoken. It may take time for his conscious self to catch up, but the truth is already alive. To recognize it is not to excuse every contradiction, but to understand that love, before it is spoken, is lived. So if you find yourself in the presence of these signs, remember, sometimes the truest "I love you" is already being said, not in words, but in the quiet language of the soul. If this reflection resonated with you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who might need to hear it, subscribe for more thoughtful explorations, and let us know in the comments what part spoke to you most.